Now, the city planner's excuse during our conversation, and he had the audacity to repeat it in his sworn testimony, where he was, in fact, subject to the laws of perjury, was to, I have the floor, thank you.
But you're testifying, and you've already done that. I mean,
thank you. Commissioner Justice, you do not have the floor. You do not have the floor, sir. Please. Was attempting to say that the adjoining property owner's property would then be landlocked. I present to you an absurdity. The property is not landlocked. The property in question is outside of the city. There are no county building regulations governing it. It is not landlocked. It has a large boundary adjacent to Adams Lane, and there's no access across the subject property today. So in no way did the situation deteriorate by the lack of an access easement across the Mount Juliet Crossings property. I did for that business what I would do for any business, and what I have done for other businesses, and said, this is improper, you're exceeding your authority. If the two business owners want to get together and have a cooperative relationship, they may do so, but it is not within the power of the city to force that. I stand by that today. I stood by it then, and I'll stand by it forever. In fact, at the Planning Commission, if you go and bother to watch the tape, it was discussed that the adjoining property was outside the city and thus only in the county with no building guidelines applicable to it. The developer began to explain why that was a negative as to his property, and you can't see who it was because the camera wasn't on the Planning Commission at the time, but you can clearly hear on the video of that meeting that one of the planning commissioners laughed and said, you've said enough. It's in the county. They don't have any building regulations. We understand your point immediately. You don't need to discuss that anymore. So it was set aside as a reserve parcel to be determined the disposition later. Nothing was decided that night about the future existence of an easement. Everyone agreed, with the assistance of Tom White, one of the most respected land use attorneys in all of Tennessee, who I had engaged for that very purpose so that I did not have to speak to staff again on the matter, agreed was an unconstitutional taking without compensation. I believe that I acted properly. Yes, I did have a conversation with staff. I've never said that I didn't. I wasn't accused of having a conversation with staff. I was accused of threatening and intimidating staff. And if you read the sworn testimony, you will see that nothing of that nature occurred. On the Del Webb matter, it is established record that I sent an email on a Saturday, followed it up on a Monday, at which I requested a meeting between myself, a developer who's investing millions of dollars in this community, the city manager, the city planner, the public works director, the city engineer, and the city planning attorney. I'm sorry. Are we really going to say that an elected official on this body does not have the right to call staff together to speak with a constituent and determine what the rules are that do apply? Everyone acknowledges that as soon as the attorney explained the policy, that the request was withdrawn and the meeting continued on with other matters. Yes, sir.
Motion to suspend the rules to allow the city planner to speak.
Is there a second?
I second
That requires a 4/5 vote.
To suspend the rules?
Yes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Vote.
And I abstain. Thank you. We are back on the motion to amend the original motion. Yes, sir, you have the floor.
I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to go completely over your testimony again. But if we had that kind of thing going on, it would seem only fair that we would ask anyone else who had an opportunity to give their deposition be allowed also the same opportunities as the meeting that you've had tonight to defend themselves. And then for you to make comments that would publicly make comments that would malign the city planner, I mean, that's atrocious. I can't believe you just did that. You know, if nothing else, that just backs up some of the things that have been said. That's not acceptable.
There's been a motion, there's been a vote, and it did not succeed. Vice Mayor Haggerty?
I brought my laptop with me because I have all the depositions on here, and I do want to read from Bobby Franklin's deposition. This is shortly after you had placed the call to him, and you were posing as the mayor, but in fact were representing your employer. And at this part of the conversation, he's asking, there's some conversation going back and forth about the issue of the 50-foot road that goes to the back parcel. Mr. Franklin says, I was a little bit confused by the interest of it, and what he's referring to there is your interest of it. He goes on to say, I may have asked her, why do you care? I mean, why are you? What difference? At some point, I read the subdivision regs. I think it was 1082 or something to her because it's pretty common stuff. It's in the first chapter of our subdivision regulations. And the conversation sort of ended there. I mean, it sort of went away. I don't know. Ms. Flowers says, did she drop the issue? Mr. Franklin responds, well, she dropped the issue with me. I didn't hear any more from her about it again. I did get a call the very next day from Tom White. I'll skip a little bit of this back and forth.
What page you're reading from?
I'm on page 22 of Mr. Franklin's sworn deposition. It goes on to say they established the date and so forth. Tom White called me and wanted to. I think he may have said that he has a client that's interested in this problem, and I read him the sub-regs. And he agreed with me. Tom White agreed with Mr. Franklin that the Planning Commission may require an access. I mean, I appreciate his situation here, but the point that I've been trying to raise is simply the fact that you were calling the city planner as the mayor, but you did not disclose that you were employed by that developer. It was a tremendous conflict of interest. I would see it any other way.
I'm